Good morning, everyone, and welcome to my podcast. My name is Lynette. Today we're going to talk about removing blocks. By that, I mean we all have blocks that were most likely put on us by other people or possibly things that we attempted to do that didn't work out favorably, and so we built a little block against it. But the block is what holds you back from being 100% of who you're meant to be. I'm going to use a metaphor as to what blocks can do for you. It's like if you were a piece of clay and you were to be molded into the most beautiful being, but you had some rocks and debris in your clay. That creature that somebody was trying to mold would never happen or would not be the best that it can be because those rocks and debris would eventually show. So we need to get rid of those so we can be molded and live our best life and be the best that we are meant to be. I think almost everybody has some sort of block. And it's real interesting because I realized one of my own the other day that I didn't even know that I had. We can most definitely get rid of those blocks by asking and praying for them to be removed. But we also have to do our part. And if one of your blocks is fear of anything, fear of something you're attempting to do, or just fear of experiencing anything, a social environment, regardless of what it is. And our part in removing blocks is breaking through it. Like if a fear comes to your mind, for example, we're going to use fear. If it comes to your mind, you ignore it and walk through it anyway. Like that old game that people used to play, step on a crack and you break your mother's back. Well, some people got kind of obsessed with that, and at this point they call it OCD, but since I know nothing about OCD, I'm not even going to go there. But the point being, you can get consumed with anything. So if you have, and I'm going to use step on the crack, if you are so consumed with that, and that's pretty extreme, I realize, but I'm just using it as an example. You have to break through it and not allow yourself to do that. And that is one way of taking steps toward getting rid of these blocks, is doing it anyway. It's so interesting how we don't even realize that we have certain blocks until you attempt to do something. And I'm going to use an example that happened to me the other night. And this is really kind of a ridiculous example, but it really did happen. And I have this little dog that never wants to come to you, ever, ever. So the challenge has been trying to get her to come to me. Well, the other night, for some reason, she finally did. And I realized I had trouble showing her real true affection. And I don't know if it's because I was shocked that she actually came and laid by me, or do I have a block? And it made me start thinking, I mean, I know I can show affection. I love certain people and blah, blah, blah. But it made me start thinking, why did I have trouble really expressing, and I'm going to use my dog, really expressing to my dog how I felt? I had to start thinking about growing up. Did I see good, healthy relationships, or didn't I? Who knows? Regardless, we all have little things in us that we need to remove so we can become a shell of a person. And when I say a shell of a person, I mean it in a positive way. If we become empty and become a shell, then we're there for God to mold us. And we can try anything. We can do anything. We can move forward with things at a pace where we couldn't before because certain blocks were holding us back. I think the blocks are old. I think the blocks are what give you negative thoughts. And if you rid yourself of those, you will still have maybe a bit of wandering, maybe even a little distress about trying something new. But actually, I don't think you would even have the distress. I think you would attempt whatever, just like a new child, just like something new is born into you. So you can attempt it. You don't have this preconceived notion that it's not going to work out, that you're going to fail. But you're just going to do it and do it for fun. And so life, I believe, is meant to be fun. I really do. And I think so many of us, because of blocks or trauma or whatever upbringing we had, I think a lot of us are in survival mode. And so we're all surviving instead of actually living and living to the fullest. And when I say living to the fullest, it means having a clean slate. Can you imagine really being totally clean, free of all these debris, of all these bad memories, of all these negativities, free to enjoy life as if you're taking your steps for the first time ever? There's no thought of failure. There's no thought of maybe not doing it correctly. There's just a thought of doing it. And that's how it should be. We should, I don't mean to quote Nike's slogan, but we should just do it. And that's, every experience in life is new, brand new. And for some reason, we let this old baggage pull us kind of backwards instead of addressing each new thing with excitement. I remember reading some of the past, and I wish I could remember it word for word, but it was something about when you have a backpack on, you had it loaded with bad memories or blocks or debris, whatever, it would be twice as hard to climb the mountain. And so when you drop all that, then you're free to just soar. I also know that some experiences are worse than others, and I believe that post-traumatic stress disorder is real. Regardless, we need to take the steps. Some steps are more severe, involve therapy, but regardless, you need to take your own steps moving forward. Yes, we utilize the tools that are there for us, but we also need to take the steps that we need to take. But in doing so, in taking your own steps, is also teaching your mind how to move forward and how to change your view of the world. So part of that is changing your own way of thinking, looking at the world differently. I mean, we can have a therapist tell us all this, but once the session is over, you're likely to go back to your old way of thinking. But you've got to make a change in your being, a change of who you are. And the really exciting part of all this is that when you make these changes, you won't outwardly change. You will look the same. But consequently, you will actually outwardly change. Your whole demeanor starts to change when you feel better. Have you noticed people that just look fresh and happy, like they've conquered the world, and you might feel not so much? I remember one time I went to see this person about a medical technique, and his wife happened to be there. And she looked at him and said, "Look at her face." And I thought, what does she mean, look at her face? And she could see the stress. I was going through something then. I thought I looked fairly good, but she could see the stress in my face. And I also heard a story about somebody who was shopping and thought they looked real good, real together, and then was approached by another shopper and said, "Are you okay?" I had a concern for what they saw that this person was wearing in terms of not physically wearing, but emotionally wearing. Sometimes we wear things in an emotional level, just as we do when things are good or when things are bad. And I believe and I think as you let these blocks go and you become molded, your smile is a little brighter, your eyes have a little bit of twinkle in them. Just everything about you changes. It's not a physical change in terms of coloring your hair or putting on new makeup, but it is literally changing from the inside out. And what a wonderful gift to give yourself. But you've got to take steps. You've got to make a decision that you want to move forward. So many people want, but they don't want to do the work. And it's not really work, it's a change of mindset. I mean, there's going to be those in the end, picture it like a race. There's going to be those who don't want to put out the effort or the energy or whatever to become their best selves. And so at the end of this race, there's going to be some people that are exactly like they were decades ago. And then there's going to be those that have worked hard to make the change. And what's funny about that is the people that don't want to put out the effort almost get angry, some of them anyway, at you because you've changed, because you haven't stayed at the level that they're at. I know I myself have experienced that, where people who were used to me being just like them felt uncomfortable when I started to grow and I started to change, and therefore tried to hold me back, usually in subtle ways. But I could feel it. I could feel what was going on. And that's why it brings us full circle again to choosing who you let into your life. You want people who are going to be a cheerleader for you as you change, as you grow, as you become a better person. Not only do you become a better person for yourself, but you become a better person in terms of giving the gift of being you, being an encourager, being a supportive person to those who are around you, whether it be children or friends or just anybody. Everybody deserves to be treated right, to be made to feel special, to be appreciated for who they are. And when you become this better person, when you take the steps to be the best you, you're more available to give it to others. And what a wonderful gift. I can't imagine a better gift to give, particularly your children or even anybody around you. If you listen to people talk, they talk about certain teachers that made a big difference in their life. You can make that difference in anybody's life. It doesn't cost a cent, but everybody deserves it. I know I was talking to somebody recently who was having some previous problems, and they said, well, misery loves company. And I thought, oh my gosh, we need to play the flip side of that. Positivity breeds positivity. Misery breeds misery. So in changing that mindset, if people around you who think in terms of misery loves company, in other words, they feel better if you're down with them. Instead of that, if you can pull that person up and they are more at your level at a positive level, positivity breeds and loves positivity. And again, I think it is the best gift we can give anybody. But it starts with us. It starts with getting rid of old barriers, old blocks, so that we can freely give to the person behind us. Make them the best that they can be. Want to mold them without debris, without rocks. So all in all, it's kind of a snowball effect. But it comes with us realizing it, starting with ourselves, and taking the steps to eliminate all the old strongholds that we've had. Eliminate those and be free to be your best, to feel light enough to try new things, and try it with a good mindset. Because just what if everything turns out perfect? With that being said, I will talk to you next week. I thank you for listening. God bless. Bye-bye.